Hey, Magnus, buddy, you were blaming classical chess. You know who you have to blame, buddy? Yourself. You were the one who killed it, boss. What are you doing to us? You were the guilty party. It's obvious. It's like you're at some party and you're like, this is dull. This is a dull party. Then you leave the party and then you see some stuff on Instagram later about what was going on at the party. And like, how that party was great after I left, man.
Well, here we go. Welcome to Dojo Talks. Today we're doing another recap of the Ding Nepomniachtchi World Championship match. We're actually recording this towards the end of round number 9. Nepo is currently trying to grind this pawn up knight endgame. It's like 2 pawns versus 1. The guys here are thinking that it's very likely going to be a draw. So we're kind of recording this podcast with that assumption, but if something happens live while we're recording, we're just going to deal with it. But we're thinking it's going to be a draw. Current score right now is 4.5 to 3.5 in favor of Nepo. If today's game is drawn, it'll be 5-4 Nepo, with Ding having white in the next game. And yeah, it's been a very, very interesting match so far. We're just going to talk about some of the latest stuff that's happened since our last episode, which we recorded after game 4. If you haven't heard that one, you can check that out as well. So let's get into it. First question to you guys. Actually, I just want to know, how much have you been following the games? We were talking before we went started recording that for me and David, the games have always been over as soon as once we're awake on the West Coast, Central. But how much have you guys been following the stories and stuff around the match?
Well, as is known from the previous shows, I don't consider this a world championship match. I was originally not into watching it at all, but now I've been drawn in.
I told you would be once a good game was played.
And there's been, there's been some great games. When Ding played D5 and I was sitting there scratching my head, why, dude, why? And then minutes, I don't know why, it was a long time. Time went by and then it hit me like an epiphany that it was a mating pattern. Pawn was on D5, king was over there on H8, and it was a mating pattern. And I was like, oh, and I was so pumped when Ding won that game that then I was all in. I was just all in, man. That was a masterpiece. So yes, I have been watching it. And I want to say too, oftentimes I don't really like the commentary, but especially when Naroditsky and Anish were doing the commentary, I really loved it. I thought, I was getting something out of it as a player too, which isn't always the case. So yeah, I'm all in.
Nice. So you've seen a chunk of it live even.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what's cool too about let's say the broadcast is, let's say you wake up and it's already an hour or so in. Well, you can go back and kind of do instant replay. And then whenever they're talking about something you don't like, you're like, I'll just fast forward here a little bit. Go to the next phase,
Catch up.
Great watching.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah, I go on, I try to find the YouTube stream of the main ones, and because you can scroll back on it, and then I try to watch from the beginning.
By the way, everybody, Kostya is a millennial, so he's not waking up until 10 or 11 St. Louis time over there. Has to have his avocado toast before the day even gets started. So he's not watching the match. He's watching the instant replay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sometimes the recaps are out by the time I wake up, and I'm like, all right, I'll just watch a recap. I've been enjoying the chicken chess recaps. C-Squared has been doing really good recaps when I want a deep dive on the game. Caruana has been analyzing these games for an hour. Yeah. Just going through all the details, all this stuff. I mean, it's wild, the age we live in. And yeah, the commentary has been great. I think Fabi took over for Giri today, but whenever these top guys do commentary, they really they really want to do a good job. They're not phoning it in.
Or maybe their phoning it in is so good that you can't tell because they're up there.
I think with some GMs you can tell a little bit.
You can? Okay.
I don't want to name any names, but yeah. How about you, Dave?
Because
Are you watching any of the broadcasts?
no, I haven't watched anything. I just clicked through the games on my own. And obviously after they're done, because I'm not waking up at 2 a.m. or anything. So yeah, so unfortunately, I'm consuming it in a sort of a cheap way, you know, like I'm not giving the games their true time or anything like that. But you know, I click through all of the games and get a surface sense of what's going on, and I find them all very exciting and entertaining. But my perspective on everything is a very, very low level perspective, right? Because what I mean by this is, you know, how much you understand something depends on the time you put into it, as well as your skill level, right? So if you're a 1,000 rated player and you study a game for 6 hours versus if you're 1,200 and you spend 10 minutes on it, actually the 1,000 is going to get much deeper into the game than the 1,200. And so I'm doing sort of a fairly surface look at the games. For example, in yesterday's amazing game, I played through the whole game and I, you know, just at my sort of blah, 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 ooh, exciting, ooh, exciting, ooh, exciting kind of thing, you know. And then I went on Twitter and saw a tweet from Anon where he says, in this position, you know, he missed like an amazing inhuman win. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, it didn't even occur to me that Nepo left his rook hanging for a move there when I played through this game.
Right.
You know, that Ding could have taken it because a perpetual was threatened.
Right.
Like I played through that phase of the game for some reason so quickly I didn't even notice a rook was hanging, right? So it means like I might be 2,400, but I'm appreciating the game like somebody who needs their mate in twos or something, right? It's sub 1,000 level because I didn't see that the rook was hanging for a move. So that really like colors. I think the time you spend on it really colors how well you appreciate and know it, and it makes me even less qualified than ever to have any opinions on what's going on. But I'm still enjoying it, you know. So you don't have to be good to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, that was such a critical moment. I'm going to move us to kind of our first topic, which is a question people have been asking. Is this the best match in recent history? Poor Magnus, he gave up the title, and then the very next match is like the most exciting, right, that we've like had in a while. In terms of like just general fan interest, that might be because we have recently experienced huge chess booms, and there's a lot of new people just following chess for the first time. But it definitely feels like people have really gotten into the match, which is very, very cool to see. So it definitely feels like this is the most exciting one. I mean, in terms of like decisive games, there's no question if that's the major metric which for many people it is going to be whether a match is exciting. Then like
Draw agreed.
Oh, draw agreed. Okay, it's good to know. But yeah, is this also, let's say, like the best match in recent history? What do you guys think?
We would have to define your word best, but
I'll define it.
Okay. Let me just say something about your word exciting, then Jesse can define best for us. There are two things that make chess games. Well, there's a couple things that make chess games exciting, but one really important component in chess games being exciting is not knowing who's going to win. So the same holds for a full match, right? Like a full match is more interesting if you don't know who's going to win. And having two players who are really, really close in strength, right, where it's not so obvious who's better, is obviously going to make things more exciting than having a heavy favorite like when Magnus plays. So right there, removing Magnus obviously makes things more exciting. If Magnus played Nepo again, you would sort of know who was going to win the match, and that would remove much of the drama. All right, Jesse, tell us about best.
Okay, so it's, first of all, I still regard it as an exhibition match. I got to put it out there. But okay, the reasons it's the most exciting match in, really, if you think about just world championship matches, especially, well, in my lifetime, it's the most exciting, if, you know, going back to Fischer-Spassky, in the sense that a couple things are happening. One of the things this is highlighting, first of all, we got to say, is how Magnus, being a machine, the machine that he is, took out a lot of the flavor and spice of both chess and classical chess. So, for example, Magnus had a huge team, which basically ended 1e4 from Nepo. Just cut it out. Boom, you're done, Nepo, right? Magnus also, as a chess player, doesn't really have any obvious weaknesses. Both of these guys have obvious weaknesses that even a chump GM like me can diagnose, right? So the weaknesses are part of the storyline and are part of the match. And it's like, oh no, which weakness is going to be more important in the long run? You know, which weakness is going to show it? So there's like this element where Magnus was always playing the percentages, and that's what the professional would do, right? I'm not going to give you any love as either white or black, and it's going to be a grind. I'm going to take it to the grinding positions because I know you're terrible at those. Just going to wreck you. And he annihilated Nepo. I mean, it was just annihilation. So then we come here, and oh, dude, Ding is playing like he's going for it, and Nepo is taking on the challenge, right? This last game they had yesterday, where they play this Nimzo with Rook A2. Oh, I'll tell you, my friends, it doesn't get any spicier than that. No, I'm going to go ahead and say, in terms of World Championship prep, that is the spiciest that has ever been played in a World Championship match. Now, I'm willing to be wrong on that. People can throw other games at me, but that was spicy. That was pure spice. And so, yeah, obviously, and what is that part of? Part of it is the influence of rapport on the match, right? That guy's insane. And he's influencing him, Ding, not only in the prep, but like, imagine you hang out and get locked in a room with rapport for a couple of days. You're going to come out a different person, my friend. You're not going to be the same person after that. He's going to change you.
That's very interesting. Yeah, because Richie, he is known for like these like weird opening ideas. But I noticed in a lot of games, like they actually work out. He gets a strategically like winning position. But okay, then the game gets complicated. There's tactics. Like he doesn't always win. So if you take like his creative ideas, you give it to let's say slightly stronger player Ding, who can actually like crush some of these positions. Like it's actually a very, very interesting combo. So their partnership has definitely been one of the highlights of the match.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Wait, so Jesse, so you're saying it's the most exciting since Fischer-Spassky, but does that mean it's also the best?
He says it's the most exciting World Championship match, but it's not a World Championship.
It's not a World Championship match, but just in terms of like the storylines and the games, absolutely. These games are amazing, man. These games are absolutely stunning. Everyone's fighting chess. It doesn't look like the whole thing with the World Championship matches. And let's just say, this is a hilarious thing about Magnus. Hey, Magnus, buddy, you were blaming classical chess. You know who you have to blame, buddy? Yourself. You were the one who killed it. You were the one who killed it, boss. What are you doing to us? You were the guilty party. It's obvious. You know, it's like you're at some party and you're like, this is dull. This is a dull party. Then you leave the party and then you see some stuff on Instagram later about what was going on at the party. And like, oh, that party was great after I left, man. That's what's going on in this match, dude. Yeah.
Right, but don't you think that's just because he's just like raising the level of his opponents? His match against Nepo, according to the computers, was like the most accurate World Championship match of all time. All of his matches have been the most accurate World Championship match of all time, right? They just keep getting more and more accurate, right? So can we really blame Magnus for like raising the level to the point where you now get like 12 draws in a match, right? Or a bunch of draws?
No, but hold on. Magnus was the one who said that the World Championship match and the classical time control is boring. People aren't interested in it, right? Okay? So, Magnus, buddy, you're the one who dried it up. Do I blame you for drying it up? That's what you're asking. No, I don't blame him for drying it up. He was trying to win. He's trying to win. But if you dry it up, don't blame the classical chess for being boring when you were the one who dried it up, boss. Right?
But
and you look at
just because he's so good.
For him,
it is boring because he's so much better than.
And he is great at playing spicy chess. Don't get me wrong. Magnus can do it. It's just that he knows that from a statistical standpoint, if you just take all those positions off the board, that if you dry it up, that he is going to outplay you, right?
Yeah, let me just say, like, clearly if Magnus were in this match playing all these spicy openings with them, most likely he would beat them by an even bigger margin.
Yeah.
Than when he's drying up every single game with black and just trying to grind it out. Most likely. But there is that small percent chance, and that's the part where you have to be professional, right? There's that small percent chance that he like takes a pot here and there.
Yeah.
Right? And then the match is in question. So as Jesse says, he's taking the professional approach, playing the statistics. He's going for, a 99% chance of winning by at least 1 point, instead of an 85% chance of winning by 5 points or something, So he's not getting into all these crazy games.
I do appreciate what Jesse is saying, but we do have to give Magnus some credit. Like in the previous match against Caruana, he went completely the other direction, right? He like he went from playing the Berlin and being super, super solid to now playing like the Sveshnikov, Roslimo, all these like crazy sharp positions. But for the same reason that you mentioned, I think, again, he was playing the odds. He was like, this is the best like opening for this match, and these are the positions I want to play. But to his credit, I mean, those were like some of the, I think those games were fascinating. And then the next Magnus for the next couple of years when he was playing the Sveshnikov was like, to me, that's one of the best phases of Magnus ever. Just like, absolutely fantastic.
Everyone wishes that he would just go around playing the Sicilian. Everybody, the fans, his opponents, everyone.
Well, yeah. Somehow it always ends up coming back to Magnus, huh? Somehow.
We should do a whole show on Ding Nepo without mentioning Ding or Nepo.
but let's talk about why this is a fascinating match. I think it has to do with the weaknesses of both players, and I said it before, and it's only become clear, since the match has progressed. So both players have weaknesses. Nepo makes impulsive decisions, and in some ways this works to his favor, or can work in his favor, where he doesn't have the level of system to ability to really think deeply like Ding does. So he will make an intuitive move without calculating it. Against Magnus, we saw he's just getting crushed. He got smashed so many times when he made some intuitive move without thinking it through. So that's his weakness. It's obvious. It comes to hurt him all the time. And then Ding, psychological frailty, my friends. Oh, the game he lost as black in the French. I was weeping. I mean, he played such a nice game. He was tanking even in the right spots. And then he just froze, dude. He just froze and threw it all away in a position like, no way you can lose this position. No way. And he's just tanking. And it's all over. Like the match the match isn't over yet, but probably that's where the match was decided. If it goes against Ding, that game. So you can see now like that the psychological issues he's having versus Nepo's impulsiveness. It's like two frailties that Magnus doesn't have, and that's making the match interesting. And by the way, even on a human level, it's fascinating to watch. And then Rapport has got his own issues, man. And then those guys go bro it down afterwards in this like nerd bromance thing. Fantastic, dude. And our bro Mike Klein is there taking pictures of them holding hands after the end and stuff. Great, man. What a story. I love it, dude. That's fantastic.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of the bromance, obviously you guys heard about the prep leak. I think most people did, so I won't recap it too much.
Josie, have you told us, before you move to the next topic, have you told us if you think this is the best match?
Yeah, for
like
me,
you said, it was exciting, but is it the best? Is there any definition of best other than excitement?
For me, it's definitely the best in terms of fan interest, which I do think is important. I know it's
that's what you're on.
It was kind of a sensitive issue last time, but yeah, no, to me, it's really cool that people are like getting into the games. That people that were like essentially watching like PogChamps a couple of years ago would be watching the equivalent of now are like actually watching the World Championship match. And I feel like Chess.com and all these other broadcasts are actually doing a great job of bringing people in and like showing them like the stress and the pressure of like an OTB game, and how like these like long drawn out games are actually the epic struggles that lead people to fall in love with chess. So I think it's been very cool how there's been a ton of new people that are like now super also like Levy, all the people doing like recaps on the match, like I think they're doing a great job just like supporting and getting people into it. In fact, these new fans were so into it, they're like disappointed to hear that a lot of like traditional chess people are like not calling it a real match. Just the fact that like we were even entertaining that, you know, this isn't like a real world championship match or whatever. We still have all of our opinions on that, but just the fact that we were entertaining that question is like disappointing to some people because they're like, how could you not be into it, right? It's like, so to me, that's actually very, very cool that people are that invested.
Yeah. Me personally, I don't see a clear criterion for what is the best match. Like even a criterion that everyone would agree on. Like for you, audience engagement, I mean, that just sort of like depends on time, right? I mean, in 2 more years, there will be even more people playing and watching chess.
I hope so.
So would that automatically make it the best match? In terms of quality, I think the Magnus matches are probably better. And if I had hours and hours to deep dive into the games, you know, maybe I would learn more from the Magnus games. So me personally, I don't have an answer to this question of what's the best match. You know, for my current, like for me, it would be a better match if they were playing during the day instead of in the middle of the night. I mean, but given the time I have, it's very fun to see a bunch of decisive games and a bunch of rich positions. And obviously the players switching openings from game to game adds interest for me personally.
You know, and one thing we've talked about as a trend, we were talking about this in our Chess Boom episode, but something that I'm observing that we talked about there, it's happening is, you know, actually I'll reference, David, you were on a podcast recently with Daniel Lona, great thing. I was just started listening to today. And there you mentioned that back in the day, we used to have a chess hierarchy, you know, like if you were a lower rated player, you wouldn't even kind of dare to talk to a higher rated player.
So true.
It was a real thing. And now what we really experience with the match and the computer, the ability for everybody to see like, oh, he blew it on that move, bar went down. Now, I'm definitely not a fan, if you want to learn chess, of using the engine, but as people just watching it, it democratizes the whole thing. And now on Twitter, you get all kinds of people being like, you know, some like 900 being like, Dings was what a chump, man. He missed the win. What's wrong with him? And it's hilarious, but they feel it, and it allows them to participate in the match in a way that they couldn't have before, right? They would have been hierarchically squeezed out of the conversation, and now everybody is just like, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's just enjoy the ride. It's changing chess. It's great.
Yeah, sometimes people talk about like chess elitism and stuff like that. But yeah, in the past, you couldn't even make eye contact with a grandmaster without worrying that they were gonna like scowl at you. Like, no, you're looking at me for it. Like, it's like you're like walking on eggshells around higher rated players. I mean, those were fun days.
Anyways, but to the league, I don't think it was that bad. It's definitely worse than Fabi's leak. Fabi's leak was just like a couple pictures. And even back then you had people saying, oh, Fabi's done. The pictures of the positions will destroy him. This one was far more interesting. I'd say, actually talk about the match stories. Like the guy who found the leak is actually, he's with us in Dojo in some capacity, right?
Yeah, shout out to Ludwig, Delarge on Reddit.
This guy did some deep dive. He did some deep dive to find like the games people were playing with H3. It was like some people rated 1500s going down dark roads with H3 and other stuff, all openings that we've then seen. And I gotta say, like in our last podcast, I made fun of H3. I think Kostya did too. But then just the very fact that those guys were like playing practice games with H3, man. I was like, what? What are you doing, boss?
Hello, and so they were sparring. Jesse, they were sparring, which is a core principle of the Dojo training program. Let me just say that proves all of our theories, right? That's how you That's the best way to learn a new opening. I mean, I just wanted to make that quick point. It's like even the top guys, like they understand you got to spar these positions out to get a sense and feeling for them.
Yeah.
But so
anyways,
funny how that happened.
I still don't understand H3, boss. But anyways, like that's an amazing story, and it psychologically may be damaging, but I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, does the leak include a lot of sparring in other positions that haven't come up yet?
There's
Not
a couple
too much.
things.
There's a couple things, yeah.
Apparently there were some
We're talking
Nightorf
hundreds
games.
of games.
Yeah, but like there was some Nightorf games, for example, where I think, well, I mean, I don't know if anyone made it clear like who was white and who was black in those games. Presumably Ding was playing the white side of 4H3, yeah, there was like Nightorf games. There's also this line C4 E5 in English where all the knights come out, and then white plays Queen C2 on move 4 instead of like G3 or something. So that was definitely possible surprise weapon. There was some stuff. I think more with like the FIDE leak, I think the bigger thing is just how much it affects Ding, because it could be something where maybe you just feel like so embarrassed and it's just like crushing you, and then that could affect your play. From a chess perspective, I feel like it doesn't matter. You always just figure it out. They're just gonna prep a new thing. He'll be fine, right? But it's like, yeah, I guess it's just like how bad does it make you feel that you made a mistake like that?
Right.
Yeah.
But man, so funny that they have this like bromance, and then it's like this leak happens. They're like playing like these games. It's just like, oh man. Did you guys consult anyone during the preparation, or is it literally just the two of you?
Just the two of them? That
Like
would be
Ding and
the
Rapport,
smallest team in World Championship history for the last, 40, 50 years.
But we got to say, like, Ding has never had a team. The guy's always been working alone. This is like the one friend he's ever had, which is like, oh, this is why the bromance is even cooler, Yeah.
So it's first love, Jesse?
Yeah. First chess love, yeah.
All right, let me move us on then to the next topic. I think we touched on this a little bit in terms of why are there so many decisive games. Jesse mentioned both these players have clear weaknesses that have become apparent or being exploited during the match, and they're both kind of losing games that they wouldn't necessarily be losing if they were in their best form. Which to me makes sense. There's also, of course, just the added pressure of it being a world championship match. It's also just a weird situation. I don't know if many people have thought about this, but like normally at a tournament, you're not the only game on the stage, right? That's like a very unique experience. And Nepo, I know he's played like matches before. I remember he played this like match with Undraken, many years ago. So he's had like some experience, but still, it's like, it's weird. It's like it's the only game, everyone's watching, everyone's going to be like tweeting and posting about the game. If you make a mistake or blunder, like it's just going to be everywhere. It's going to be in all the books forever, right? I feel like there is this very much added pressure of it being a match for the title. I know Jesse doesn't think it's for the title, but these guys, I think they do think it's for the title.
I mean, it certainly matters to them because like whoever wins is even going to play the next world championship match. Like they understand it puts them in a certain situation to win this thing. But I don't think the pressure would be the main reason that there's a lot of decisive results. I would think the main reason is actually confidence. I think each of them believes they can beat the other person. So when they're playing the game, they're trying to win instead of trying to draw.
It's interesting.
And I think what one of the things that really kills modern classical chess, other than Magnus's skill level, is the fact that you've got like heaps of people trying to kill the game. Like imagine you're a 2700 trying to beat a 2700. If they're trying to draw the game versus if they're trying to beat you, it's a whole different ball game, and your chances of winning drop by tens and tens of percentages if they're trying to draw. Or let's say if they're like completely happy to draw. And like I would also point to the opening choices as being one of the major reasons you have so many decisive results, but then the reason for the opening choices comes back to my previous reason, which is they believe they can win, right? So the way the openings are creating more decisive results is they're playing different openings, right? If you play the same opening every single game, then the computer prep goes deeper down and you get more dialed in, and you've got sparring games in already, even within the match, much less, you know, you go home and maybe spar it a couple extra times in some blitz games to make sure you've got the ideas down. And then it just gets harder and harder to beat you in that position, right? Like the chances of beating you go from 10% to 8% to 6% to 4% to 2% as you get like really dialed in on it. But the reason they're playing all these different openings is because they believe they can beat the other person, because nobody's like, oh, now I just have to kill the match and like try and draw a bunch.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there might be something to that. Because you also get, I would argue, a similar situation when you do have a low-rated player, but they're in a must-win situation. So they kind of have this, they kind of get this confidence just by default, because like they have to win the game. So it's like they're much more willing to push a lot harder. So yeah, I think there's definitely something to that.
All right, final predictions.
Okay.
All right, I'll go first. Yeah, Ding, buddy, let's bring it, man. You've been playing the best chess. Clearly, you are the better chess player, okay? Your opponent, psychologically stronger than you, not chess-wise stronger. So I'm rooting for you, buddy, even though it, you know, if we were betting, it would be hard to bet on you at this point, okay? But I'm rooting for you, man. I'm rooting for you strong. I believe in chess talent. I enjoy chess talent. When I see a move like d5, man, I'm ready. I'm all in, buddy. So, Ding, you got to bring it through, boss. That's my final word here.
Okay, less of a prediction, more of a plea, but I think we'll take it. What do you think, David?
I think that Jesse was predicting Nepo's win there.
Oh,
by sort of like pleading, right? It shows that like if he thought it was just going to happen, he wouldn't plead, right? So I think Jesse thinks that Ding is behind by 5 or 10% chances in the match right now, and I would agree with that. I think Nepo's got a small percent chance of taking the match. You know, it's not down to like, oh, there's 3 games left and this many whites or that kind of thing just yet, but you know, a point is a point. And unlike Jesse, I think that that Nepo has played slightly better than Ding so far. Sorry, Jesse. I know it's gonna hurt to hear that, but you know, to me, there would have to be some really, really obviously glaring ways of explaining away why you've got less points than someone and we're still playing better than them somehow. It's a very hard argument to make. The proof is often just in the points. And so I think Nepo has been, you know, edging ahead slightly. Yeah, I mean, I hope there's still a couple more wins back and forth because I'm enjoying it. I hope that Nepo doesn't try and like shut it down. But I mean, it could be interesting to see him try.
He didn't try to shut it down today, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
And Costa, I got to ask you something, actually. Since we had our last podcast, a new word was added to the lexicon of the human language. And I want to ask you, did you create this word? The word is to Nepo Ding, which is to flip-flop on your predictions. Now, who's ahead in the match? Did you create that thing, man?
Yes, Jesse, thank you for mentioning that. That is my word. I came up with it on my morning walk here in St. Louis, which often draws inspiration. And yeah, certain Anish Giri really enjoyed the word. He tweeted it. That was nice of him. Everyone's been, I don't know how to use the word exactly, but yeah, everyone's been Nepo-ding about the match.
You'd have to say Nepo-dinging, wouldn't you?
Nepo-dinging, yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking about. I'm not a linguist, okay. I am just more of an ideas person. But I came up with a second word. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Ding Nepo, which is when a match is just like when both players are like trading back and forth. You know, like blows back and forth. These guys are just winning so many decisive games in a row. I mean, it's crazy. I thought we might not get a draw at all. They were just going to keep winning back and forth. Yeah. Until someone just
and it didn't have to be a draw yesterday, right? I mean, that game
was very close.
A very bloody game.
It was very, very
Let me just say,
Ding
I've
should-
never changed my prediction. I have not Nepo dinged a single time here.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I've always said Nepo has a small edge.
I've flip-flopped a bit. I first said Nepo, then I thought it was 50-50. Now I think it's back to Nepo. Look, predictions are silly, okay? We're just saying like what seems statistically reasonable. Right now it seems like Nepo is a bit more likely to win the match. Doesn't mean he's 100% going to win, right? If you have a die with 10 sides and you're like, what are the odds that it's going to come up 1 through 6? It's 60%, right? That doesn't mean it's always going to come up like that if you only roll it once. That's how probabilities work. So sometimes predictions don't work out, but right now it feels like Nepo's leading. But yeah, I feel like the chess world has already kind of won, so it doesn't fully even matter at this point who ends up. Like, I think both scenarios are fine. Both outcomes are good. Both players would make great FIDE world champions.
The dream would be for them to just keep playing the second half of the match the way they played the first half. That would be the dream. Just no holds barred, just keep going for it.
Yeah. Or for them to postpone the match. Something happens, then they got to postpone it for a year, play like a second match. That'd be cool too.
Oh, you can't get enough already.
Yeah, that'd be great. They should do a world championship match every year with the 2 best players. I don't know. I think that's going to do it for the recap. We'll be back, I think, after the match is over for maybe a last closing recap. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening, folks.